Hello everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Daniel, and today in this video we'll be covering my round 7 game in the Quebec Open Championships. At this point I am 3-4-6, and I'm playing the white pieces. Let's see if I can continue with my winning streak. So d4, d6, my opponent goes for the stone wall the structure. And here just some developing moves. And here after knight b to d7, here I play c takes on d5. So it's important that you'll see that this pawn tension has been here for quite a while. And the reason why I never took was because I knew this knight was going to have a tough time developing. If I take at any point, then there is the c6 square for my opponent. So I purposely waited until my opponent committed with knight b to d7. Then I took, so that this c6 square, my opponent will have to go back and then go to c6, which would waste a bunch of moves. And here I play the move knight to b5, attacking this bishop. If you play something like bishop e7, then I have rook to c1, and you're probably going to lose on the spot. So my opponent played bishop to b8, here I play bishop to b4, limiting my opponent's ability to castle because the bishop on b4 controls the square f8. Here my opponent plays knight to e5. This also prevents my secondary idea of knight to d6. But here I find the very tricky move queen a4. The idea here is that if you play some random move, like let's say h6, then here I can hop in with my knight, for example. Knight to e5. If you play knight takes on e5, this is simply losing. After knight to d6 check, king to e7, let's say, then knight takes on b7 check, and after something like bishop to d6, knight takes on d8. Here there is knight takes on d3, which would actually end up losing. But here I simply have bishop captures on d6 with check, and after knight takes on d6, knight takes on d8, rook takes on d8, and here after simply pawn takes on e5. This is winning for white by a lot. So in the game, my opponent here plays the move king f7, which is indeed the best move in the position and the main move I looked at. The idea of king f7 is just to simply get out of this pin so that there is no ideas of like knight d6 check and etc. Here I play rook c1, putting even more pressure, limiting this bishop's options to get out. Rook to e8, my opponent's trying to play king g1 and king g8 and castle manually. Here I should have played the move queen to a3, the best move suggested by the computer. Alternatively, there is queen c2, which I saw right after I played the move. Idea is to probably play like knight c7 and just really stuff black's position and not let them move. In the game, however, here I played rook c2. My idea is to castle and bring my rook over to c1. King g8, castles, knight to b6. And here, since I had thought a lot, because I knew I was probably winning, and I was, because you're normally not supposed to move the king this early on, I had to think for a long time to see what I had to do. So at this point, I had really low time. So here, I pretty much just blunder immediately after a6 with the move rook f to c1. Here, at this point, I only have like 3 minutes left, so I couldn't calculate everything. However, here after a takes on b5, in fact, I was so rushed, I didn't actually even see that there was a threat on my knight, because I forgot this knight on b6 actually protects the rook in the corner. My idea, however, after a while, my opponent also didn't calculate clearly and played the move g5. However, here after a takes on b5, it's actually winning for black, sorry, because I had foreseen rook takes on c8 when I went to calculate when it was my opponent's time. And if you play queen takes on c8, then I can play rook takes on c8. If you play rook takes on a3, then you lose a rook plus a bishop, and this rook is also under fire. However, here my opponent has the very nice move, bishop captures on h2, opening up this rook to this rook on c8. After king captures on h2, because it was with check, rook takes on c8, rook takes on c8, queen takes on c8, now I am losing. In the game, however, thankfully, my opponent plays the move g5, but here again, due to low time, I miscalculated, and here I play the move queen to a5, which actually loses the game again with the same thing. Alternatively, I should have played bishop to a5. If you take here, now I have bishop captures on b6. If you play rook takes on a3, bishop captures on d8. If you play rook takes on d3, rook captures on c8. This bishop's probably going to die as well, and not to mention this pawn's going to fall. Instead, queen a5 was played, g4, and this is what I calculated, knight to c7. The idea with queen a5 is that I noticed if I had played queen a5 here, after bishop captures on c7, rook captures on c7, there is the move knight to c4. I thought this disconnected my two rooks, but Obviously here I have rook captures on c4, and then after d captures on c4, and bishop captures on e4, pawn takes, and probably knight to e5. This position is still better for white, as the computer claims. However, I didn't see that with low time, so instead I played queen a5. So that after g4, knight c7, if you take. Now, if you play knight to c4, I have some protection here, and I can simply play bishop captures on c4, d captures on c4, and after knight e5, this rook is still defended. So going back, here after knight c7, my opponent takes on f3. I simply take this rook in the corner, and now I'm actually fully winning. Bishop captures on h2, king captures on h2, and pretty much these types of position, it's pretty much just do or die. If my opponent can checkmate me with all the material he has, then I lose the game. And if my opponent can't, then I'm up 65 different pieces. So at this point, queen h4 check, king g8, pawn captures on g2, king captures on g2, queen to g4 check. And after king to f1, I actually won the game because my opponent actually lost on time here. However, anyways, this position is completely hopeless. My opponent's down too many different pieces. Not to mention, they're going to lose another piece here because this knight is undefended. Once this knight moves, I can take this bishop. So at this point, it's completely losing. And in fact, to recap this game was really, really wild. I've counted, in fact, I think me and my opponent combined, we made 7 blunders in a row after rook f to c1. And it was not a good game at all from that point onwards until the very end, when I managed to recapitalize my advantage. So yeah, in general, quite a rocky game, but in the end, I still managed to win. So now I am on 4 out of 7 in the Quebec Open Championships, and let's see if I can continue to improve that score in round 8. See you in that recap. Thanks for watching.